Dafonte Miller and his family. With Dafonte Miller to my right and to his right is his mother, Leisa Lewis, that are present today and prepared to answer questions. I won't lie to people. I find it intensely artificial to be talking to a mic and a screen and not have anybody present, but we'll do the best with what we have. The intention of this exercise is to provide an opportunity for Dafonte and his mother to answer questions and to give their reactions to the judgment issued by Justice DeLuca today. So I'm going to start with some introductory comments. Today, Mike Theriault, the constable of the Toronto Police Service, was found guilty of the criminal offense of assault for what was done to a young black male on a December night in 2016. What is noteworthy is precisely what the judge commented on at the beginning of his judgment. Would the facts, would the multiple charges laid against Dafonte Miller that night have happened if in fact a black man had been seen without shoes on top of a white man? What is noteworthy is, would the conviction of Mike Theriault today even have happened if not for the fact that a white deputy fire chief witnessed it? What is noteworthy is how Dafonte Miller almost seemed to be as much on trial as the Theriault brothers. This is not an isolated incident. This is not about one bad apple. This is happening across North America. Not because all police are bad, but because the ongoing victimization of racialized and Indigenous people as a result of police abuse and police violence is a systemic, chronic problem. In the wake of the Floyd death, people have risen and protested. Change doesn't simply happen by protest, it happens by action. I'm going to ask Dafonte to make some remarks. Dafonte?
First of all, I would like to show appreciation for the community supporting me, everybody who's been in my corner. It's meant a lot to me in these last few years. It's helped me go forward. We've come a long way, you know, because I remember the night when this happened to me, I ended up getting charged, you know, and now we're in a situation where an officer has been held accountable to some extent, you know. And there's a lot of people who are in my position who don't get the same backing that I got and don't get to have their day to really have any vindication for what they're going through, you know. And I just, you know, that's really my main thing. I want to thank everyone for the support, and I want to bring awareness to all my brothers and sisters who are going through what I'm going through and don't have the resources that I had and don't have the support that I have, you know? So, like, that's pretty much it, you know?
Thank you, Dafonte. Dafonte's mother, Leisa, is also with us. Leisa, did you want to make some remarks?
I'm just going to echo what Dafonte said with the support. It's been amazing, the community support, the family support. Very grateful for it. People strong. People texting, emailing, and just posting stuff online. And it's helped us to see that as much as we're fighting like a big system, we had people out there that were supporting us. So, yeah.
Thank you, Leisa. Asha James, partner at Falconer's LLP, and my co-counsel in this matter.
So I think today represents for Dafonte recognition of what happened to him in December 2016. And it's further proof that individuals, citizens need to make sure that they take all steps available to them to hold police accountable for their wrongdoings and their actions. Because had Dafonte not had the ability to engage with legal counsel, these proceedings never would have happened. The Toronto Police Service and the Durham Police Service failed to notify the SIU of Dafonte's injuries and what happened that night. And Michael Theriault and his brother would have went about conducting and living their lives without ever having to answer or stand trial for these issues. And it's important that members of the public understand what resources are available to them and that they use those to ensure that this type of misconduct is brought into the public light and people are held accountable for it.
Thank you, Asha. I just had a couple of closing comments and then we'll entertain questions. It is important to note how this started. This started as a case of multiple counts of assault with a weapon, drug possession, and further offenses under the criminal code against Dafonte Miller. As a lawyer at it for some 30 years in the area of police accountability, I can tell you with absolute certitude that the one hallmark of police abuse cases in every situation is that the victim of the police brutality is the subject of the charge. Now, how did it happen that a person who suffers catastrophic injuries, his left eyeball on the hood of a car, parts of his eye actually leaking onto the hood of a car, at the hands of two people who had no visible injuries whatsoever, could end up the subject of multiple criminal counts without any members of the Durham service querying or questioning it? How could it happen that neither the Toronto Police Service nor the Durham Regional Police Service, in view of these catastrophic injuries, never contacted the Special Investigations Unit, and that it was upon us as legal counsel weeks later to make that notification? Today, a judge made findings that were essential to progress in this area. How so? Because it's been flipped. Instead of Dafonte Miller being convicted, Constable Mike Theriault is convicted, but the question shouldn't stop there. Question number one that we have for the system is, how could this cover up, the failure to notify the Special Investigations Unit, have been jointly orchestrated by two police services, Toronto and Durham, to protect a Toronto police officer and his brother? Question number two, what was the role of the father of the Theriault brothers, Toronto Police Service Detective John Theriault, in the initial police investigation and ultimate cover-up of the brutal police beating of Dafonte Miller? Question number three, in view of the catastrophic injuries to Dafonte Miller and no injuries to the Theriault brothers, how could the bogus charges have been initially laid against Dafonte Miller? And finally, what is the justice system prepared to do to curtail the hardball legal defense tactics in the courtroom that serve to repeatedly and mercilessly re-victimize victims of police abuse? We are calling for a federal commission of inquiry to bring out the truth about beatings and killings of racialized and Indigenous people in police custody. The Dafonte Miller experience is hardly an isolated incident. It's time to commit. It's time to commit to real police reform. We'll take questions.
Austin Delaney, unmute.
Thank you. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good, terrific.
Join
Dafonte,
us.
I'm out of the courthouse right now, the Oshawa courthouse. You had over 100 supporters here. The overwhelming reaction was that you didn't win today. Do you feel you got a victory with the assault, or was it a loss?
I don't feel like I took a loss because, like I stated a little bit earlier, a lot of my brothers and sisters are going through similar situations as me, and a lot of times people are dying and officers are walking, you know? So I don't feel like I took a loss. I feel like we took a step forward, you know? I could have easily been convicted of one of those charges that they put on me that night when I lost my eye. But instead, I'm here today. So I don't feel like I took a loss. I feel like there's a long way to go, and we just took a step forward.
Colin Cote Paulette.
Can I just follow up to Austin's question just before we answer the next one? And it's this. It's not Dafonte Miller that's about to be sentenced. It's Constable Mike Theriault. And one would think that because a judge has made a finding, not just of a conviction of assault, the judge found that what, quote, probably, close quotes, happened was much worse. The judge found that what, quote, probably happened, close quotes, was that they chased Dafonte Miller down, not with a view to arresting him, but with a view to exacting an assault that amounted to vigilante justice. So please understand the context. This is absolutely progress, and we'll entertain the next question.
Hi, Colin. Yeah, Colin from CBC News, Radio-Canada. Julian Falconer, I think you speak French. Would it be possible to get just a quick declaration regarding the verdict for French medias across the country?
Aujourd'hui, un juge a fait une détermination que un des charges, un des comptes contre Officer Theriault était une décision de coupable. La décision au sujet d'un coup de vol, d'un assault, c'est très important. Cette cause a commencé avec des charges contre Dafonte Miller. Puis ça conclut avec une décision de coupable contre le policier Mike Theriault. La chose que ça m'inquiète, que c'est pas un exemple d'une situation très isolée. C'est un exemple d'un problème systémique que ça arrive dans plusieurs régions dans l'Amérique du Nord. On sait par rapport à la situation de M. Floyd dans les États-Unis, puis on sait dans les villes toutes traversent l'Amérique du Nord qu'on a un problème avec la violence de la police contre les communautés racialisées et contre le monde autochtone. Aujourd'hui, c'est une importante étape pour changer tout ça.
Merci.
Next
I'm
question.
trying to run the questions using the raise hand icon. People aren't doing that, so I'm going to go through the chat and try to do this in order. So please bear with me. I'm going to ask Ashley Legazik next. I just have to find her in my list.
If people could use the raised hand icon, it would help us. You know how to use it on the Zoom call?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for taking my question. And I'm hoping each of you could answer this. What do you think is an immediate change that could be implemented to address systemic racism and prevent another case like this from?
I'm asking if you could first identify yourself before asking the question.
Sorry, this is Ashley Legasic from News Talk 1010.
Thank you.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm hoping each of you can answer this. What do you think is an immediate change that could be implemented to address systemic racism and prevent another case like this from happening?
So I'll address this first. We've asked and are calling for a federal commission of inquiry to bring out the truth about beatings and killings of racialized and Indigenous people in police custody. The ordering of that inquiry would be a first very important step. It would be a historic step, and it would represent a recognition that this is not a problem only in Toronto, it's not a problem only in Ontario, and it's obviously not a problem only in Canada. But it's that kind of push that we need. Secondly, I want to emphasize that this case isn't only about the conduct of the Theriault brothers. It's also about the conduct of the leadership of the two police services in essentially covering up the beating of Dafonte Miller. So an important next step is an accountability, an accounting as to how this cover-up was orchestrated.
Are we good for the next question? Should we go to the next question?
Yes.
Thank you. G. Massa looks like they're next. So G. Massa, I'm going to unmute.
Hi, it's Janella Massa with City News. Just wanted to ask about the sentencing. What could these officers be facing? What do you think is an appropriate sentencing? And also just kind of in line with the idea that it's just an assault conviction and not an aggravated assault conviction. How different will that sentencing look?
Go ahead, Asha.
So for an assault, the maximum penalty that Officer Theriault could face is 5 years. Had he been convicted of an aggravated assault, the maximum sentence would have been 10 years. We've heard Justice DeLuca say that although Officer Theriault was not charged with an assault with a weapon, the fact that the steel pipe was used while Dafonte was standing at that door begging for help is going to be an aggravating factor with respect to sentencing. So, you know, while we don't know specifically what the judge will ultimately decide in terms of sentencing, we would hope that it would be closer to the maximum range than the lower end available.
Next question.
Okay, so Wendy Gillis will be next.
Hi there, thank you everyone. It's Wendy Gillis from the Toronto Star. I wanted to ask both Dafonte and Mr. Julian Falconer if you could address the comments that Julian you made about the tactics that were used by the defense and how that can re-traumatize victims of police violence. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And Dafonte, can you talk about how you felt on the stand?
Go ahead, Dafonte.
On the stand, it just kind of felt like as if felt like the case was against me, you know. I was being cross-questioned about me losing my eye. It's like as if I felt like as if which is the defense lawyer's job. I felt like he was trying to flip the case onto me, you know, instead of really trying to get to the bottom of what happened that night. It became about everything else but that night.
And I can elaborate on why we raised this as one of the major issues the justice system has to confront. And the best way I can speak to that is to compare this to where we've come in sexual assault trials. Of course, being a complainant in a sexual assault trial remains very challenging, but certainly the justice system has recognized that there was a long history of unfairly traumatizing and unfairly re-victimizing complainants and using stereotypes to attempt to imply that they basically either consented or deserved what they got. I don't think we've come anywhere near understanding how that same type of dynamic is operating in respect of police abuse cases. By that I mean the entire character of my clients inevitably gets put on trial every single time they are abused by police. And what it tells you is that, first of all, the police are extremely well-resourced. They hire top-class defense counsel. I admire Mr. Lacey and Mr. Gold and their colleagues. That doesn't change the reality that there have to be limits on how far we want to go to discourage and basically pummel victims of police abuse. Did he deserve to have a steel pipe used on him? Did he deserve to lose his left eye? Is that what we're actually examining? Because as Dafonte just laid out for you, he felt like he was on trial. So we have to reconsider and rethink how we do these trials. And I suggest to you that that's part of the reform that has to go into this area. Next question, please.
Maharaj, I'm going to unmute. As I said in the rules, I would move on if we didn't get a response in 2 seconds. So I'm going to go move on to Wendy Gillis.
Thank you so much. I was given an opportunity to ask a question. I would ask a second, but I assume others would like the chance.
Go ahead, Wendy. If you have a second question, go ahead.
Well, I guess I would ask just personally for Dafonte, what comes next for you? Are you looking forward to moving on with your life? What comes next?
For me, what comes next? I'm definitely looking forward to moving forward in my life, you know. It's been over 1,000 days, you know. I've been up and down, you know, but I've been up recently, you know. So I really feel like my life holds a lot of positive things going forward, you know. So that's kind of my mindset.
Next question.
Okay, so now I don't think I have anybody queued. So if anybody's looking for a question, let me know. Lorenda Redicop, I'm working on it. Actually, Dekshana's ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Dekshana? Okay. Lorinda.
Hi there, it's Lorenda Redekop with CBC News. Lisa, question for you. I don't believe you were at any of the trial with your family. I may be wrong there, but what was this whole experience like for you?
I was present every single day, but I wasn't allowed to be inside
No.
a witness, but I was upstairs every single day. It was very difficult not being able to sit in and actually hear what's going on, but I understand the process, and it was very difficult to not be able to actually be able to hear everything, but I had to keep track of everything online and Twitter and see what was going on in there.
No.
And it's been difficult for our family, but we're strong. We have our support, so that was the best part of everything, just having family support and community support.
Did you have a follow-up question, Lorinda?
We've got Dekshana.
Hi, this is Dakshana Bhaskara-Murthy with the Globe and Mail. I have a question for you, Dafonte. How did it feel for to hear the judge acknowledge the role that race played in this? You know, right from the outset, he said that things might have gone differently if, you know, your race was reversed with Constable Michael Theriault, and that even the way that you responded to questions from police, you know, he was saying that there were some, you know, discrepancies, and those might just be the result of a lot of Black people not having trust in the justice system and in police. So can you tell me how you felt, you know, I guess hearing your Blackness being acknowledged?
How did it feel? If I don't know how to completely answer that, but it did feel like it just felt like he knew what he was talking about. You know? You know, that's it.
You understand it,
yeah, it just felt like he knew, like he understood that if I was the one that ended up beating out one of their eyes, that I probably, you know, wouldn't have gotten as much of a shot as Michael Theriault and Christian Theriault got. You know, I probably would have been arrested in 2017 and charged.
And if I can add a little bit to that, our justice system, you know, like the rest of humanity on these issues, creeps along in terms of evolving. And I would, you know, I don't want to be artificial about these exercises. It was very painful and hard to hear Justice DeLuca reject Dafonte's version of events in terms of what he did and didn't do that night. And I remain confident in my client. But where I say serious progress is made is the way Justice DeLuca foreshadowed his reasons and how he started that judgment. And I say that the court system is progressing in inches. It's not feet, it's not meters, it's not yards. But the evolution can't just be in the individuals, the judges, because Justice DeLuca is a more recent appointment and a younger individual than perhaps some of the more, you know, intransigent judges of a bygone era. But it's not. But we have to create rules that take into account the very challenges that the judge talked about, and we have to ask ourselves: do we have the safeguards in place currently to protect against these hardball defense lawyer tactics that in essence simply re-victimize the victim? It can't be true that we, in 2020, can't come up with a system to monitor the laying of assault police charges against individuals in alleged police brutality cases. What do I mean by that? It is virtually automatic. It is chronically automatic that when an individual is the subject of police abuse, that what happens first is that assault police charges are laid against them. That is out of the manual. How come we haven't figured out how to control that, how to monitor that? Why do police officers in those circumstances have this unbridled?
So if you can make notes of that, that might help.
This kind of charge. So that there is much work to be done, but what I would say, and regardless of whether Christian Theriault was fully acquitted today, or regardless of whether all counts weren't found against Mike Theriault, what you do see is you see a foreshadowing and a recognition of the role of race, and obviously our courts are making progress. Next question, please.
Hi, Colin. Colin, I'm going to ask you to unmute now.
Yes, I have another question for Dafonte. I was wondering, we know that a lot of people experience like police brutality, like their relationship with police is different after. So I was wondering, how do you feel when you walk past an officer now, or what's your relationship with police, you know?
My relationship with police, I don't have a relationship with police, but I don't have disdain towards police. I don't look at every officer and think, fuck him, you know? That's not my thing, you know what I mean? It never was my thing. I don't believe, like I've said, like I don't carry a certain energy, you know? I don't believe an eye for an eye leads to anything but an arm for a leg, you know? So I keep my energy in the right place. If I see an officer, I'll keep it moving the same way I would keep it moving before the situation, you know?
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Next question.
Hi there, it's Lorenda. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. This is a question for Dafonte. I know this trial was about charges against the Theriault brothers, but the judge in his ruling did mention that he believed that you had been breaking into vehicles that night. What do you say to people about that?
I don't have much to say to anyone about that. Honestly, I know what I was doing that night, you know, and whatever the judge feels like he can put together with certain pieces of evidence that he got, then that's his conclusion, you know. But I know what I was doing.
And if I may, I would like to follow Dafonte's remarks, but also, if you're talking about the judge's observations outside of his simple findings or finding of guilt against Constable Mike Theriault, ask yourself the question about his findings of what he calls probable conclusions. The judge found that it probably occurred, in other words, more than likely occurred, that the Theriault brothers chased Dafonte Miller with the intention of assaulting him, that it was probable that they chased him with the intention of assaulting him, not arresting him, that it was probable that they did not act in self-defense. He said that he had a doubt about that, but it was probable that they didn't. All of those findings of probability suggest to me, and this is my opinion, that this judge did not find the accounts of these officers particularly compelling, that he found they were probably giving an untrue version of events, in my opinion, and that the probable reality of this is what everybody is worried about, that a young black male was yet again horribly brutalized by thuggish police behavior. There are many very good police officers in this country. But sadly, the racist, chronically brutal behavior of some and the way the system covers up that conduct by some mars the good work of many others. And that's where the system is failing, is we seem unable to actually create genuine accountability. And that inability to create genuine accountability mars the great work of others. And I would go one step further, that at the end of the day, there's not going to be any real change unless it's not, I get it that the term defunding is used. We simply need to allocate serious resources to police accountability. So an OIPRD that doesn't investigate cases becomes a joke. And they don't investigate most of the cases they receive. An SIU that still doesn't have its leadership sorted out becomes a joke. We have to sort that out. There is so many areas of police accountability that fail, yet we're very good at spending huge monies on guns. We teach officers how to use guns. We spend an enormous amount on training, but mobile crisis teams that team up health professionals and police get a minuscule piece of the budget. That's the failures. Next question.
Heather?
Hi, it's Heather Wright from CTV News. I have a question for Mr. Miller and Mr. Falconer, if you both wanted to answer it, and it's kind of in line with what you had just been saying. There are a lot of people today saying this is an example that it's impossible for Black, Indigenous, and other people of color to get justice in Canada. What do you say to them?
I say that from the, I understand from the outside looking in, it might seem a little hopeless, but I'm from the inside looking out, and I know where I'm coming from. So there is hope for us, you know? That's really what I can say, you know? Like, there is definitely hope for us, and I know where I'm coming from, you know? A lot of people might be from the outside looking in, might think it's hopeless because that's what it looks like, you know? But it's not what it is, you know? We just need to find our inner strength, you know? And try to make changes, you know, with each other. That's my answer.
And Asha, did you want to address that?
I agree with Dafonte that these are in the but we do have a long way to go, and as Julian has said, an important first step in recognizing and addressing these issues is a Royal Commission of Inquiry, a federal Royal Commission of Inquiry, so that a real light can be shone on the breadth of the experiences faced by racialized and Indigenous people in this country in their interactions with police, so that we can start to make real systemic changes, so that we can ensure that police services boards are making sure, one, that the makeup of their police service is representative of the communities that they serve, that the police services board are making sure that the police chiefs that they hire and that are accountable to them are ensuring that the officers that they put out on the streets to patrol communities are accountable, that they are doing so in a respectful and decent manner, and that people of color, racialized people, Indigenous people are not going to be continuously brutalized by police.
And if I may ask just one more question, my apologies, I missed the very beginning of the news conference, but do you know, does the Crown plan to appeal this verdict?
There's been no announcement at this stage, and it would be highly unusual for the Crown to make such an announcement until the case is fully completed, and it hasn't gone to sentencing yet. I do want to add one more note to the question of does it feel like the situation is hopeless? On December 28, 2016, so in essence, 3.5 years ago, Dafonte Miller was charged with 2 counts of assault with a weapon, single count of possession of a dangerous weapon, a count of theft under $5,000, and a count of possession of marijuana under 30 grams. These charges and his handcuffing all took place while his left eye was falling out of his head. On June 26, 2020, Mike Theriault was convicted for assault. That's a change. So I understand that there may be people who wanted to see more. I want to see more. But there's progress being made. There's no charges against Dafonte. You hear that he has his dignity. Why? Because he fought back. You heard a judge today. Sure, he, as he's duty bound to do, respected the notion of reasonable doubt, but he kept repeatedly, as a recurring theme, refer to what he thinks, quote, probably happened. And that's a pretty damning story, what he thinks probably happened. They didn't walk today. That's not what happened. We all know what probably happened. Next question.
Michelle Mandel.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, hi, it's Michelle Mandel from the Toronto Sun. I'm wondering if you can just explain briefly for us lay people why he wasn't convicted of aggravated assault.
The judge's reasons, Justice DeLuca held that he had a reasonable doubt that while he felt that probably they weren't engaged in self-defense, that he had a reasonable doubt, that a doubt was raised, and that the law requires that the only time upon which he can convict of aggravated assault if he's convinced beyond reasonable doubt. He believes what probably happened was an assault, and he believes what probably happened was not self-defense. But because a doubt was raised, because at one point he believes it was reasonably possible that Dafonte had the pipe to defend himself, that was enough to clear Mike Theriault of aggravated assault. Here's the irony. The irony is that Mike Theriault was originally charged with counts that included assault with a weapon. And based on the judge's findings today, it's quite apparent that had that option been available to Justice DeLuca, that is assault with a weapon, given his findings that an assault occurred and that assault included the usage of the steel pipe, it's quite apparent that Constable Mike DeLuca dodged a bullet on that one. My apologies. Constable Mike Theriault dodged a bullet on that one when he Freud might be introduced in respect of all of this, but Constable Mike Theriault dodged a bullet when the assault weapon charge was no longer out there against him. Next question. Boy, this feels like the opposite of Zooming, but anyway, just saying.
You know, it does.
Well, that's because I'm refereeing. Is anybody else looking for a question?
Keep moving. We're killing everybody with delays. Thanks.
Okay, I see no raised hands and I see no more questions. So I would say people in the Zoom, speak now.
We're going to give it 20 seconds to wrap up. If we see no further questions, we're going to thank everybody for attending today. Are there any further questions?
Again, no more hands and no more chatted questions. So I think you guys wrap up. Sound good?
Thank you very much for people attending and being patient with us in respect of this day. Dafonte, his mother, Leisa, their family have been through a great deal. It's an honor for Asha and myself, the team at Falconer's, to act for them. And we will keep pushing these issues. And we hope that people who are listening today will ask the key question: whether our federal Canadian government will do the right thing and order a commission of inquiry into the violence suffered by racialized and Indigenous people in police custody. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone too, because you know, just this little time that I sat here gave me a small voice to speak, you know. So I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the listening.
I just wanted to say one, thank everyone for giving this opportunity to just share our side. And once again, I'm always going to keep thanking the supporters and thanking the community, thanking our family, because we couldn't have get through this without them. And thank Julian and Asha. Yeah, definitely. I don't know how far we would have got without Julian walking us through it, contacting SIU and, you know, letting us know our rights and helping us to fight. So thank you guys.
And that's the main thing. I just want to say one more thing. That's the main thing, because like I had said, a lot of our people don't even have the resources that I got. You know, when I first lost my eye and I went to the courthouse, they told me that I wasn't eligible for even
legal aid.
I wasn't even eligible for legal aid because there was no possibility of me going to jail or something like that. So like I really I didn't have the funds to go get no lawyer. I got, you know. So I just want everyone to know that.
Yeah.
Thanks for everything. So that's it.
As my 25-year-old son often says, peace.
It's not